The great crystal hall stretched as far as the eye could see. Inside, beings from 47 different worlds sat in their special seats. Some floated in water tanks, others needed special air to breathe. A few were made of living rock. All of them had one thing in common. They believed they ruled the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkari stood at the center of the hall. His forearms moved as he spoke to the crowd. He was tall and thin, with purple skin that seemed to glow in the crystal light. His people, the Villani, had been part of the council for 2,000 years. "Fellow council members," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, "today we talk about the empty parts of space. The third spiral arm remains unknown to us, but what danger could come from such a far place?" The other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement. They had heard this before. The third spiral arm was far away, was empty. It meant nothing to them. "Our machines can see only simple signals from that area," Zethkari continued. "Just one yellow star with a few planets around it. Is life there? It must be very simple. Maybe they just learned to make fire. Maybe they are already dead." High Counselor Malthara raised her massive head. She was from the ocean world of depths. Her body was like a whale but with 6 arms. Was very old and very wise, or so she thought. "The math machines tell us there is a 97.3% chance that any life in that area is gone or too simple to matter," she said. Her voice made deep sounds like whales singing. "We have real problems to worry about. The hive mind is growing stronger in the outer edge of the galaxy. We should use our time and ships to stop them." General Crystal stepped forward. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors as he thought. He was the council's top military leader. He had never lost a battle, but then again, he had never fought a real one. "Look at this," he said, and a big picture appeared in the air above them. It showed the galaxy with all the council worlds marked in blue. "Our defense system covers all the space roads between stars. No unknown species has ever been a threat to us. When we find primitive life, they always join us peacefully. If they don't, we make them." The council members made happy sounds. This was how things had always been. They found new worlds. They told the people there to join the council. Most said yes because they were scared. Few said no, but they were. Weak and easy to defeat. What the council did not know was that their deep space watchers had been picking up strange signals. These signals were getting stronger and more complex. Something was happening in the third spiral arm. It was not what they expected. Far away, on a blue and green world called Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison sat in front of his screens. He was on board the UES Horizon, the first human ship built to travel between stars. Jake was young but smart. He had been watching space for signs of other life for 3 years. "Captain Rodriguez," he called to his commander. "I'm seeing something weird out here. These signals aren't natural. Someone is making them." Captain Lisa Rodriguez walked over to look at Jake's screens. She was the first woman to command a deep spaceship. She had short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had worked hard to get where she was. "What kind of signals?" she asked. "At least 47 different types," Jake said, pointing at the colored lines on his screen. "One is different. Different speeds, different patterns. It's like listening to 47 different radio stations." Lisa felt cold fear in her stomach. For years, humans had looked at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer. They were not alone. But there were so many others out there. "How far away are these signals coming from?" she asked. "Hard to say for sure," Jake replied, "but they're coming from all over that part of space. Whoever is out there, they have a big civilization, much bigger than ours." Lisa stared at the screens. Earth had just sent out its first ship to explore other star systems. They thought they were pioneers, the first to leave their home world. But now it looked like they were babies, taking their first steps in a world full of adults. "Keep watching," she told Jake. "Record everything. We need to know what we're dealing with." Back in the Crystal Hall, the council was ending their meeting. They had decided to ignore the third spiral arm for now. They had more important things to worry about. The hive mind was still growing. Some worlds were asking for more independence. Trade was down in the outer systems. Ambassador Zethkari felt good about the meeting. The Council had been ruling the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had seen primitive species before. They always turned out to be harmless. Some were even useful as workers or soldiers, announced High Counselor Melthara. Return to your worlds. Keep the peace. Maintain order. The aliens began to leave. Some walked on legs. Others floated through the air. A few dissolved into light and vanished. They all felt safe and secure. The galaxy was theirs. Nothing could change that. But General Crystal stayed behind. He was looking at the star map again. Something bothered him about the third spiral arm. The signals his machines had detected were getting stronger. Not just stronger, but more organized. Computer, he said. Show me the signal analysis from the third spiral arm. The crystal computer made thinking sounds. Then it spoke in a voice like wind chimes. The signals show increasing complexity over the past 50 years. The electromagnetic patterns suggest rapid technological advancement. There are also signs of controlled fusion reactions and exotic matter manipulation. Crystal's crystal body turned dark red. Controlled fusion was advanced technology. Exotic matter manipulation was even more advanced. This was not the work of primitives who had just learned to make fire. How advanced? Asked. Insufficient data for complete analysis, the computer replied. However, the progression rate suggests a species that advances much faster than Council norms. If current trends continue, they may achieve interstellar travel within the next 10 years. 10 years? That was very soon. Most species took hundreds of years to go from their first fusion reactor to traveling between stars. The Council had been watching the third spiral arm for 50 years. In that time, whoever lived there had advanced from simple radio signals to exotic matter manipulation. Crystal decided to keep this information to himself for now. The Council did not like surprises. They preferred to think of themselves as the most advanced beings in the galaxy. If he told them about the rapid advancement in the third spiral arm, they might panic. Instead, he would increase monitoring of that area. He would prepare contingency plans. If something did come out of the third spiral arm, the Council would be ready. Meanwhile, on the UES horizon, Captain Rodriguez was making her own plans. The signals from space proved that humanity was not alone. There were many other species out there, and they were organized. They had been around for a long time. Jake, she said, I want you to plot a course toward the strongest signal source. Need to know what we're dealing with. Are you sure, Captain? Jake asked. We don't know if they're friendly. Lisa looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 47 different species were living their lives. They had cities and ships and probably armies. They had been watching the galaxy for thousands of years. And now, finally, they were about to meet the new kids on the block. No, she said. We don't know if they're friendly, but we need to find out. The U's horizon turned toward the signal source and began to accelerate. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that first contact with alien life was only weeks away. Neither side knew what was coming. The Council expected to find another primitive species to add to their collection. The humans expected to find advanced but hopefully peaceful. Neighbors both sides were wrong. The species from the third spiral arm were about to meet the rulers of the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 months had passed since the UES horizon began its journey toward the alien signals. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars. They were now at the edge of what the aliens called Council space, though the humans did not know this yet. Captain, called Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison from his station. We have a contact. Ship approaching from the port side. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. After months of traveling through empty space, they were finally about to meet their first alien. She had practiced this moment in her mind 1,000 times, but now that it was real, she felt nervous. What does it look like? She asked. It's beautiful, Jake said, staring at his screen. Like nothing we've ever built. The ship seems to be grown instead of built. It's all curves and flowing lines. No hard edges anywhere. The alien ship moved closer. It was twice the size of the horizon and seemed to glow with a soft green light. It did not look like a warship. There were no visible weapons, no armor plating. It looked more like a work of art. "They're sending a message," reported Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from the communications station. "It's in perfect English somehow." "Put it on the main screen," Lisa ordered. The screen filled with the image of a being unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of light itself. It had no solid form, just a glowing outline that looked like a person. When it spoke, its voice was musical and pleasant. "Greetings, creatures of the third spiral arm," the being said. "I am Ambassador Yolandra of the Galactic Council. Do not be afraid. Your time of wandering alone in the dark is over. You'll now join our great civilization." Lisa looked at her. Bridge crew. Commander Pete Jackson, her weapons officer, was frowning. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez was recording everything. They all looked confused by what they had just heard. "Ambassador," Lisa said carefully, "this is Captain Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Horizon. We're pleased to meet you. We'd like to discuss trade and friendship between our peoples." Yolandra's glowing form seemed to brighten. To her people, this was a sign of amusement. She had done this 17 times before with other primitive species. They always started by talking about trade and friendship. Then they learned the truth. "Do not understand," Yolandra said in a patient voice. "You do not get to choose. The Galactic Council has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. All species must join us. It is the law." "Whose law?" asked Commander Jackson. "The law of civilization," Yolandra replied. "Your species comes from what we call a Class 12 death world. Such planets create beings that are too dangerous for normal society. You will be moved to safer worlds where you can live under our protection." Lieutenant Martinez looked up from her. "Station captain, she's talking about moving all of humanity off Earth." "I heard," Lisa said. She felt anger building in her chest. "Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Earth is our home. We're not leaving it. Now we're not joining your council unless we choose to." Yolandra's form flickered. The concept of choice was strange to her. In all her years as a diplomat, no species had ever refused to join the council. They always saw the wisdom of accepting protection and guidance from their betters. "You speak of choice," she said, "but you have no choice. Your world is a ball of poison and death. The water on your planet would kill most council species. Your air burns with free oxygen. Your gravity is 3 times normal. Nothing civilized can live there." "We live there just fine," Lisa said. "That is the problem," Yolandra replied. "Beings that can survive on such a world are too dangerous to exist without supervision. You will be relocated to proper worlds where you can be useful to galactic society." The bridge of the horizon fell silent. The crew stared at the alien ambassador. She was talking about slavery, but she said it like she was offering them a gift. "Commander," Jackson spoke first. "Captain, she's talking about enslaving our entire species." "I heard," Lisa said again. Her voice was getting colder. "Ambassador, let me make something clear. Humanity will not be relocated. We will not be supervised. We will not be enslaved. We govern ourselves." Yolandra's form brightened even more. She had dealt with primitive emotions before. Fear, anger, confusion. They always passed once the new species understood their place in the galaxy. "Emotional responses are expected," she said, in a kind voice. "All primitive species react this way at first. But you will learn. The Council's way is the only way. There is no other choice." "Then we have a problem," Lisa said. "No," Yolandra replied. "You have a problem." "The Council does not have problems. We have solutions." The alien ambassador's form began to fade. "I will return to my ship now. You have 1 day to discuss this among yourselves. Then you will surrender your ship and return with me to Council space. Your species will be processed and relocated. This is not a request. This is an order." The screen went dark. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Their first contact with alien life had gone about as badly as possible. Instead of finding friends among the stars, they had found masters who wanted to make them slaves. "Options," Lisa asked her crew. "We could run," suggested Jake. Try to get back to Earth and warn them. Their ship is faster than ours, Pete Jackson said. We'd never make it. Could fight, Sarah Martinez said quietly. Everyone turned to... Look at her. She was the youngest member of the crew, barely 25 years old. She had joined the mission to explore and discover, not to fight. Sarah Lisa said gently, We have one ship. They have a whole galaxy of ships. I know, Sarah said, but what choice do we have? If we go back to Earth without fighting, we're just leading them to our home. If we surrender, we're slaves. If we run, they'll catch us anyway. Lisa looked at her crew. They were scared, but they were also angry. No one had joined the space program to bow down to alien masters. They had come to the stars to explore, to learn, to represent the best of humanity. Pete, she said to her weapons officer, what do we have? Not much, he replied. Our main weapon is a mining laser. We've got some small missiles meant for clearing debris, and we have the reactor. Reactor? If we overload it, it would make a pretty big explosion. Big enough to take out both ships. Lisa felt cold. Pete was talking about a suicide attack. But what other choice did they have? They could not let the aliens follow them back to Earth. They could not become slaves. Could not let humanity be destroyed without a fight. How long until the ambassador comes back? She asked. 18 hours, Jake replied. Then we have 18 hours to prepare. Pete, I want you to work on the weapons. Jake, plot a course that will put us between their ship and the path back to Earth. Sarah, I want you to record a message. If we don't make it back, Earth needs to know what's out here. The crew began to work. They knew they were probably going to die. One human ship against the might of a galactic empire. But they also knew that sometimes a few people had to die so that many could live free. On the alien ship, Ambassador Yolandra was preparing her report for the Council. She had encountered resistance before, but it never lasted long. Once the primitives understood the power of the Council, they always surrendered. The humans showed typical Deathworld aggression, she dictated to her ship's computer. They will require careful handling during relocation. I recommend sedation during transport to prevent self-harm. She did not understand what she was dealing with. The Council had never encountered a species like humanity. They had never met beings who would choose death over slavery. They had never faced people who valued freedom more than life itself. The next day would teach them about the people from the third spiral arm. It would be a lesson they would never forget. Both ships drifted through space, preparing for what was to come. The aliens prepared for another easy victory. The humans prepared to die fighting. Neither side knew that this moment would change the galaxy forever. The first battle between Earth and the stars was about to begin. It would not end the way the Council expected. The alarm bells on the UES horizon had been ringing for 3 hours. Earth's first deep space ship was about to face impossible odds. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood on her bridge, watching the enemy fleet approach on the main screen. 200 alien ships filled the space around them. They were beautiful, like living art made of light and flowing metal. Each one was twice the size of the horizon. They moved together like a school of fish, perfect and coordinated. Captain Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison called out. I'm picking up a transmission from the lead ship. Put it through, Lisa ordered. The screen filled with the image of Admiral Quintessa of the Ethereal Dominion. She was even more alien than Ambassador Yolandra had been. Her body seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting between colors like a rainbow. She had no solid form, just patterns of light that somehow looked like a person. Primitive species of the third spiral arm, she said, her voice echoing like wind through crystals. I am Admiral Quintessa. You have refused the Council's generous offer of protection. This fleet represents the full power of galactic civilization. You have one final chance to surrender. Lisa looked at her crew. Commander Pete Jackson stood ready at the weapons console. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez was still recording everything. Jake was tracking the enemy ships. They all looked scared, but they also looked ready to fight. Admiral Lisa replied, This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered our space without permission. You have threatened our planet. You have tried to enslave our people. Leave now, or we will defend ourselves. The alien bridge crew could be heard making sounds of confusion. Admiral Quintessa's energy form flickered with what her people showed. "Ass amusement, you will defend yourselves," she asked. "You have one ship. We have 200. Your technology is primitive. Ours has been perfected over thousands of years. How do you propose to defend yourselves?" "We'll show you," Lisa said. What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the Hour of Shame, the Council's mighty fleet, built to intimidate and control peaceful species, was about to learn what happened when they faced beings who refused to be intimidated. The battle began when Captain Rodriguez gave the order to attack. But the humans did not fight the way the Council expected. They did not try to match ship against ship. They did not follow the rules of civilized warfare. Instead, they fought like the Deathworlders they were. Commander Jackson fired their mining laser at a piece of space debris, breaking it into thousands of small pieces. Then he used the ship's gravity manipulator to accelerate the debris toward the enemy fleet. The chunks of metal, moving at incredible speed, tore through the elegant alien ships like bullets through paper. "Impossible," Admiral Quintessa whispered, as she watched 12 of her ships explode, or using debris as weapons. But that was just the beginning. The UES Horizon had been designed for deep space exploration. It carried equipment that no military ship would ever need. Equipment that humans now turned into weapons. Jake Morrison used the ship's communication array to hack into the Council's network. Within minutes, he was broadcasting false orders to the enemy fleet. 30 ships turned around and began flying away, thinking they had been ordered to retreat. How are they doing this? Admiral Quintessa demanded of her officers. "How are they breaking our communications?" "They're using primitive but effective electronic warfare," her tactical officer reported. "Our systems are designed to interface with civilized technology. Theirs is so crude that our defenses don't recognize it as a threat." Meanwhile, Captain Danny Foster of the converted cargo ship UES Retaliation was showing the aliens another human innovation. His ship had been built to carry mining equipment to asteroid fields. Now he was using that equipment in ways its makers never intended. Danny fired his ship's cargo pods at the enemy fleet. The pods were filled with mining explosives and scrap metal. When they hit the alien ships, they exploded like giant shotgun blasts, filling space with deadly fragments. "They're using cargo containers as bombs," Admiral Quintessa's science officer reported. "Each explosion is creating a debris field that damages multiple ships." But the most shocking moment came when Lieutenant Colonel Amy Stevens, commanding the research vessel Use Vengeance, did something that terrified the aliens more than any weapon could. Amy had been studying the enemy fleet's movements. She noticed that they flew in perfect formation, like a dance. She realized that their ships were connected by some kind of network that coordinated their movements, so she rammed her ship into the lead vessel. The UES Vengeance was not built for combat. It was built for scientific research. But when Amy drove it straight into the enemy formation at full speed, it destroyed not just the ship it hit, but disrupted the entire network that controlled the fleet. Suddenly, 200 perfectly coordinated ships became 200 confused individual vessels. They began bumping into each other, firing at shadows, flying in circles. "She sacrificed her ship to break our formation," Admiral Quintessa said in horror. "She killed herself to gain a tactical advantage." The aliens could not understand this. In their civilization, individuals were valuable. Ships were valuable. Nothing was worth destroying yourself for strategic gain. But humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They understood that sometimes one person had to die so that many could live. The battle was far from over. Captain Bobby Chen of the UES Fury was about to show the aliens the most terrifying thing they had ever seen. Bobby's ship was badly damaged. His engines were failing, his weapons were offline, his crew was dead or dying. By any reasonable measure, he should have surrendered. Instead, he did something that would give the Council nightmares for generations to come. He turned his ship toward the center of the enemy fleet and overloaded his fusion reactor. "What is he doing?" Admiral Quintessa demanded. "He's turning his reactor into a bomb," her science officer replied. "The explosion will destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers. Order him to stop, offer him medical aid, promise him anything." Bobby Chen was beyond hearing their offers. He was thinking about Earth, about his wife and children, about the billions of people who would be enslaved if the aliens won this battle. "This is Captain Chen of the UES Fury," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Tell Earth that we fought hard. Tell them that we didn't surrender. Tell them that humans don't bow to anyone." The reactor exploded. The blast vaporized 14 alien ships and damaged 30 more in one moment. Bobby Chen had destroyed more enemy vessels than some galactic wars had claimed in years. The surviving alien ships stopped attacking. They floated in space, their crews staring at the expanding ball of fire where the UES Fury had been. "He destroyed himself to damage us," Admiral Quintessa whispered. "He chose death over defeat." Of the 200 ships that had come to destroy humanity's first deep space vessel, only 97 remained. The rest had been destroyed or damaged by a single human. Ship using mining equipment and cargo pods as weapons, Admiral Quintessa's flagship limped away from the battlefield. Her crew was in shock. They had never seen anything like what the humans had done. "Admiral," her tactical officer said, "we need to report to the Council. You need to know what we're dealing with." "What are we dealing with?" Admiral Quintessa asked. "A species that has spent its entire history at war," the officer replied. "They don't just know how to fight. They exist to fight. They turn everything into a weapon. They sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage. They fight like the universe owes them a victory." Admiral Quintessa thought about the human captain who had spoken to her before the battle. Captain Rodriguez had not sounded like a warrior. She had sounded like an explorer, a scientist, a diplomat. But when threatened, she had become something else entirely. "Send a message to the Council," Admiral Quintessa ordered. "Tell them that the species in the third spiral arm is not primitive. Tell them that they are not helpless. Tell them that they are the most dangerous thing we have ever encountered." The message was sent across the galaxy at faster-than-light speed. Within hours, every Council world would know that their mighty fleet had been defeated by a single human ship. But the message carried more than just news of defeat. It carried a warning that would change everything. The Deathworlders had come to the galaxy, and they were nothing like what the Council had expected back on Earth. The readings were confusing and incomplete, but one thing was clear. The UES horizon had encountered something big out. There had been a fight. Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson stood in Earth's military command center. Studying the data, he was a tough old soldier who had fought in 3 wars. He knew what battle damage looked like. "How many ships did we lose?" he asked his aide. "We're not sure, sir. Signals are too weak to get a clear picture." "How many enemy ships?" "At least 100, sir. Maybe more." Thompson nodded grimly. Earth's first contact with alien life had become Earth's first interstellar war. And somehow, against impossible odds, humanity had won the first battle. But he knew this was just the beginning. If there were aliens out there, and if they were hostile, then Earth needed to be ready for what was coming. "Start the shipbuilding program," he ordered. "We're going to need a real fleet." The emergency meeting had been going on for 6 hours. In the great crystal hall of the Galactic Council, 47 different species sat in terrified silence. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Nothing had ever challenged their power. Until now, High Counselor Melthara's massive whale-like body shook as she spoke to the assembly. Her voice carried the fear that every council member felt, but none wanted to admit. "The battle reports are confirmed," she announced. "Admiral Quintessa's fleet has been destroyed. 200 ships were sent to deal with one primitive vessel. Only 97 ships returned. The rest were destroyed or damaged beyond repair." A low murmur ran through the hall. Council members made sounds of disbelief and fear. Some of the smaller species were trembling in their seats. Others were demanding answers. "How is this possible?" called out Ambassador Zethkari, his 4 arms waving in agitation. "Our technology is thousands of years ahead of theirs. Our ships are the finest in the galaxy. How could primitives from a death world defeat us?" And Crystal stepped forward. His crystal body was dark red with worry. He had been studying the battle data for hours, and what he found terrified him. They did not fight like any species we have encountered, he said. They used tactics we never imagined. They turned mining equipment into weapons. They used debris as ammunition. They hacked our communication systems with primitive, but effective, technology. But most disturbing, General Crystal continued, they used suicide attacks. Multiple human ships deliberately destroyed themselves to damage our fleet. This is beyond our understanding. Dr. Valtara, the Council's chief expert on alien behavior, had been studying human culture through their radio signals. What she found made her sick with fear. I have analyzed their entertainment broadcasts, she said. Their stories glorify warfare. They celebrate something they call heroic sacrifice. They have concepts like death before dishonor and freedom, or death, that are completely alien to civilized thinking. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most council species had evolved in peaceful environments. They had never needed to fight for survival. The idea of choosing death over defeat was impossible for them to understand. Furthermore, Dr. Valtera went on, their historical records show constant warfare between different groups of their own species. They have been fighting each other. For thousands of years, war is not foreign to them. It is their natural state. Ambassador Yolandra, who had first met the humans, stood to speak. Her glowing form was dim with shame and fear. I spoke with our captain, she said. I offered them protection and guidance, as we have done with every primitive species for 3 millennia. But they refused. Not because they misunderstood the offer, but because they rejected the very concept of submission. What do you mean? Asked High Counselor Malthara. We do not believe in hierarchy, Yolandra explained. They think all intelligent beings should be equal. They rejected our authority not out of ignorance, but out of principle. They would rather die than accept our rule. The hall fell silent. The concept was so alien to the council that many members could not even process it. The council was built on the idea that some species were naturally superior to others. The strong guided the weak. The advanced protected the primitive. It had always been this way, but the humans rejected this entire worldview. They believed in something the council had never encountered, the idea that no one had the right to rule over anyone else. General Crystal presented more disturbing data. Our analysis of their homeworld shows why they think this way. Earth is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. The surface is covered with a liquid that would kill most of our species. The atmosphere contains free oxygen at toxic levels. The gravity is 3 times galactic standard. Worse, he continued, the planet contains millions of different species, many of which actively hunt the humans. Yet humans are the dominant species. They did not just adapt to their death world, they conquered it. Dr. Valtara added more frightening details. Their planet has no single government. Instead, they have dozens of different nations that compete with each other. They fought thousands of wars among themselves. They have weapons capable of destroying their entire world. Yet they continue to exist because they learned to control these weapons. You are describing, said High Counselor Malthara slowly, a species that has been at war its entire existence. A species that has survived by becoming better at warfare than anything else on their world. Exactly, Dr. Valtera confirmed. And now they have brought that expertise to space. The implications were staggering. The Council had built their civilization on peace, cooperation, and submission to authority. They had advanced technology, but it was designed for exploration, communication, and maintaining order. Their weapons were meant to intimidate primitive species into surrender, but humans had built their entire civilization around conflict. Every piece of their technology could be turned into a weapon. Every tactical doctrine assumed that the enemy would fight to the death. Every strategy was designed to win at any cost. Admiral Quintus saw. Attending the meeting through holographic projection from her damaged flagship provided the most terrifying detail of all. They offered to talk, she said. Before the battle, their captain tried to negotiate. She spoke of trade, of cultural exchange, of mutual respect. But when we insisted on their submission, they chose war without hesitation. What are you saying? Asked Ambassador Zethkari. I am saying that they are not mindlessly aggressive, Admiral Quinteza replied. They are rational, intelligent beings who are perfectly willing to coexist peacefully. But they will not accept domination. And when forced to choose between slavery and death, they choose death every time. The council chamber erupted in frightened voices. Some members demanded immediate military action to destroy the human homeworld. Before they could spread, others called for negotiation and compromise. A few suggested retreating to the far side of the galaxy and hoping the humans would leave them alone. But General Crystal had more bad news. Our deep space monitors are detecting increased activity in the third spiral arm. The humans are building more ships, many more ships. And these new vessels are not exploration craft. They are warships. How many ships? High Counselor Malthera asked. Unknown, General Crystal replied. But the energy signatures suggest a massive construction program. They are building a fleet designed for one purpose: war against us. The truth was even worse than General Crystal knew. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson was overseeing the largest military buildup in human history. Shipyards that had once built cargo vessels and research ships were now producing warships as fast as possible. The designs were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineers, learning from the Battle of the Horizon, had created ships that were part weapon, part fortress, part suicide bomb. Every system was designed to inflict maximum damage on the enemy, even if the ship itself was destroyed. How many ships do we have operational? Admiral Thompson asked his aide. 57, sir, with more coming online every day. And how many is the council estimated to have? Intelligence suggests over 10,000 ships across all their member species, sir. Admiral Thompson nodded grimly. The odds were still terrible, but they were improving. And humans had advantages that numbers could not measure, they understood. Warfare in ways that the council did not. They were willing to sacrifice in ways that the council could not comprehend. Back in the council chamber, the debate continued. But deep down, every member knew the truth. They had awakened something that they could not control. The humans were not just another primitive species to be absorbed into their empire. They were the opposite of everything the council represented. Where the council valued order, humans valued freedom. Where the council sought peace through submission, humans sought peace through strength. Where the council avoided conflict, humans embraced it. What do we do? Asked a small voice from the back of the chamber. High Counselor Malthara looked around at the frightened faces of the galactic rulers. For 3,000 years, they had been the undisputed masters of the galaxy. Now, for the first time, they faced an enemy that might actually defeat them. I do not know, she admitted. I truly do not know. The great crystal hall fell silent. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the galaxy was about to change forever. The age of the Council's unchallenged rule was ending. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. In distant Earth orbit, the UES Constitution, the first purpose-built human battleship, completed its final systems check. Its captain, Rebecca Stone, looked out at the growing fleet around her. How long until we can begin operations? She asked her executive officer. All ships will be ready within the month, Captain. Rebecca nodded. Earth had received Admiral Quinteza's demand for surrender 3 days ago. The message was simple: submit to Council authority or face total annihilation. Earth's response was equally simple: come and try. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. The Council thought they were the unstoppable force. They were about to discover that humans were the immovable object. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Horizon. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been. Change was spreading through the stars like ripples in a pond. At the center of those ripples were the humans. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, the flagship of humanity's growing fleet. Through the view screen, she could see Kepler Station, humanity's first diplomatic outpost in what used to be Council space. The station was huge, built to house representatives from dozens of different species. Admiral, reported Commander Sarah Martinez, we have 23 different species requesting meetings today. They all want to discuss joining our alliance, Lisa smiled. It was not the smile of a conqueror, but the smile of someone who had watched impossible dreams come true. Any word from the Council? They're still meeting, Sarah replied. This is their 9th emergency session in 2 months. Lisa nodded. The Galactic Council was learning what happened when an empire built on fear and submission suddenly faced an alternative. Species that had been forced to obey for thousands of years were starting to ask dangerous questions. Questions like, why should we obey? What if we said no? What if there was another way? The human answer to those questions was simple. You should obey no one but yourself. You can say no to anyone. There is always another way. On the Council homeworld, emergency session 847 was not going well. High Counselor Malthera floated in her water tank, her massive form trembling with rage and fear. Around her, the representatives of what remained of the Council's member species argued and shouted. 17 more species have withdrawn from our territories this month, reported General Crystal, his crystal body flickering through angry red patterns. They are joining what the humans call the Free Worlds Coalition. How is this possible? Demanded Ambassador Zethkari. We have ruled for 3,000 years. We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. How can one primitive species destroy everything we have built? The answer came from an unexpected source. A holographic transmission requested permission to address the Council. The speaker was Admiral Chris Thompson of the Earth's Defense Force, broadcasting from his flagship. Deep in human space. Honorable Council members, Admiral Thompson said, his image clear and steady despite the vast distance. Thank you for allowing me to speak. You have destroyed our civilization, High Counselor Malthera accused. Our empire is crumbling because of you. Admiral Thompson's expression remained calm. We haven't destroyed anything. We've offered an alternative to it? What alternative? General Crystal demanded. Freedom, Admiral Thompson replied simply. The right of every species to govern itself. The right to choose their own path among the stars. The right to say no when someone tries to control them. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez's image appeared beside Thompson's. She had been promoted to head of human diplomatic relations, though she still commanded a fleet that could challenge the entire Council. Your empire was built on a lie, she said. You told species that they needed your protection, your guidance, your control. No. But what they really needed was the freedom to protect themselves, to guide themselves, to control their own destiny. Council chamber erupted in angry voices. But Admiral Thompson raised his hand for silence. We're not here to argue with you, he said. We're here to tell you what's going to happen next. Any species that wants to remain under Council authority is free to do so. We won't stop them. Any species that wants independence is free to join us. And any species that wants to find their own path has our protection while they do it. From what? Ambassador Zethkari sneered. From you, Admiral Rodriguez replied coldly. We know about the punishment fleets you send to rebellious worlds. We know about the economic warfare you use against species that disobey. We know about the fear you use to keep people in line. That ends now. High Counselor Malthera's form shuddered with rage. You think you can police the entire galaxy? You think your little fleet can stand against our might? We don't think it, Admiral Thompson said. We know it. Because we're not alone anymore. As if summoned by his words, more holographic images appeared around the human admirals. Captain Veltus of the Rigel Federation, whose people had been the first to join the Human Alliance. Commander Urix of the Silicon Collective Breakaway Faction. Admiral Quenda of the Free Aquatic Worlds. One by one, the leaders of dozens of species appeared on the transmission. Some had been council members for centuries. Others had been conquered by the council and forced to serve. All of them now stood with humanity. We are the Free Worlds Coalition, announced Captain Veltaz, her insectoid features proud and defiant. We number over 200 species. We control over 400 star systems. And we will defend the right of every intelligent being to live free. The council members stared in shock. They had not realized how far their empire had crumbled. While they had been meeting and arguing and trying to understand the human threat, their subjects had been quietly slipping away to join the alternative. What do you want from us? Ambassador Yolandra asked, her glowing form dim with defeat. Nothing. Admiral Rodriguez replied. We want nothing from you except the right to exist as we choose. We'll trade with you. We'll share knowledge with you. We'll even defend you if you're attacked by outside forces. But we will never again submit to your authority, and we will never allow you to force submission on others." The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. For 3,000 years, they had been the unquestioned rulers of the galaxy. Now, they controlled fewer than 30 species, while the humans and their allies controlled hundreds. But something unexpected began to happen. Without the constant pressure of maintaining control over unwilling subjects, the council began to change. Some of the more progressive species started to reform their government. They began to offer real choices to their member worlds instead of demanding blind obedience. The Villani Empire, led by Ambassador Zethkari, was the first to reach out to the Free Worlds Coalition, not to surrender, but to negotiate a new kind of relationship based on mutual respect rather than domination. 3. Years after the Battle of the Horizon, the galaxy had been completely transformed. The Free Worlds Coalition included over 300 species. Reformed Council controlled about 50, and scattered throughout the galaxy were dozens of independent worlds that belonged to neither group, but were protected by both. Trade flowed more freely than ever before. Knowledge was shared openly between species. Art and culture flourished as beings were free to express themselves without fear of authority. There were still conflicts. Of course, pirates attacked trade routes. Some species tried to build their own empires. Border disputes arose between neighboring worlds. But now these conflicts were resolved through negotiation and mutual defense, rather than conquest and submission. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez, now retired from military service, served as the first director of the Galactic Peace Corps, an organization that helped resolve conflicts between species without violence. She often thought about that first meeting with Ambassador Ylandra, when the alien diplomat had assumed that humanity would simply submit to superior force. The ambassador had been wrong about many things, but she had been right about one. Humans were from a death world, and that had made them different from other species. But the difference was not that they were more violent or more aggressive. The difference was that they understood the value of freedom. Species that evolved in peaceful, stable environments often took freedom for granted. They were willing to trade it for security, for comfort, for an easy life. But humans had evolved in a world where freedom meant survival. They had learned that nothing was more important than the right to choose your own path. And when they brought that lesson to the stars, it changed everything. Captain Rebecca Stone, now commanding the exploration vessel U.S. Discovery, was leading humanity's first expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy. As her ship prepared to make the jump to another galaxy entirely, she thought about how far they had come. Humanity had set out to explore the stars and find their place in the universe. They had found that place, but not in the way anyone expected. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had not built an empire. They had not become the new masters of space. Instead, they had taught the galaxy that no one needed masters at all. The age of empires was ending. The age of freedom had begun. And it had all started with one simple idea that humans brought from their dangerous, violent, beautiful world. The idea that every intelligent being had the right to choose their own destiny among the stars. The Deathworlders had come not as conquerors, but as teachers. And the lesson they taught echoed across the galaxy. Freedom is not given by the strong to the weak. Freedom is taken by the brave from those who would deny it. The galaxy would never be the same. That was exactly what humanity had intended.